Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Brown with the Career Development Center, and I'm joined by Dr. Mark Nunes, who's the chair of the Department of Interdisciplinary Studies. And today we are going to talk about how you bridge together your interest through academics and also outside of class through other experiences. One of the big things that I often get asked by students is, how do I major in everything, or I have so many interests, or I'm good at a lot of different types of subjects? How do I bridge those together, and what does that look like? So we'll try to address some of that today. All right. So first of all, we're going to be talking about these different areas. We're going to look at an activity that explores your work personality. And if you want to take notes along the way, we'll have a kind of an interactive activity as well. And then work interests versus hobbies, how does that fit together? What do I do now versus later? What does that look like? And we'll talk about resources that can help you with this process. And then we'll end with Mark talking about interdisciplinary studies. First of all, let's talk about work personality. I'm going to show you 6 different themes that could be used to describe your work personality and your interest. And what I want you to do is just think about, which of these do you think most represent you? You might say, well, all 6 of them do, but you're trying to find the ones that you think most represent you, the 2 to 3 themes. And then we'll do a little activity based on that, and then I'll show you some resources that can help you explore these different themes. Okay. The first one's realistic, and these tend to be the doers. These are folks that may be drawn to hands-on type of work, people that are drawn to being physically active, working with objects, agriculture, machinery, equipment, tools, often described as adventurous and self-reliant. And the next one's investigative. These are the thinkers or the scientific problem solvers, drawn to science and math. They may want to research, evaluate, or often curious and intellectual. The next one's artistic. These are the creators. These are folks that are drawn to creativity in many forms. This could be the music or arts, language, culture, using their imagination, thinking outside the box. And social, these are the helpers. These are folks that want to help others in some way. It could be through teaching, counseling, healing, mentoring, using those helping behaviors, often described as good listeners, warm and empathetic. And enterprising, these are the persuaders, people that want to motivate, lead, or influence others in some way. They're often described as energetic, good with verbal communication, and assertive, maybe a little competitive. And conventional, these are the organizers. These are folks that are drawn to organizing data, numbers, technology, office management tasks, making things work more efficiently, more seamlessly. So if you have your 2 to 3 pick that you think sound a little more like you, this is how those might be bridged together in terms of kind of your work personality. And you might feel like 2 of these really are equal for you, and that's okay too. But if you think about, what are those words that you would use to describe how you do what you do? And this is this is me, social, artistic, and enterprising. Probably the quintessential student affairs person. A lot of folks would have these themes that represent them. And these are the words that I would use to describe how I do what I do. At the end of the day, I'm a helper, and I help people every day in some form, but I like to bridge together my creativity, and I also like to lead and motivate, present, and influence others in some way. And if you can think about kind of your statement, what are the words that you would use to describe who you are, and then you can think about, okay, well, where does that fit in the world of work? That can be kind of a nice way to think about how you bridge together some different characteristics that describe you. Okay. And here's just a template of how you might do that. This can look different for everyone, but it is a way to begin to maybe narrow down and think about what maybe describes you more. You might find pieces of all 6 of those themes that sound like you, but what are the ones that you think you would kind of hang your hat on that you feel like sound more like you? And the other cool thing that you can do with this, so let's say you picked realistic and social. So how do you maybe bridge together the doing, the outdoors with helping? And we have handouts at the website listed here that can show you what are some of those majors that might align with that and jobs that align with those areas. Certainly not everything, but it gives you some samples of that. And you can look at handouts that look like this for all of those different themes that I described. And you might look at these and think, okay, here's some major and a minor, or here's a way that I might take this major and incorporate it into an internship setting. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Okay. The next site that I want to show you is the Careers in My Major site, and you can find career titles, internship sites, employers of all majors from ASU. And this might also help you to see how you take a major and then where would that take you? What kinds of employment settings, what types of internships? And that can also be another way to think about how you bridge your interests together. Okay. And finally, we have onetonline.org, which is also another place that you can learn more about job titles. This is more specific to job titles. It's not a very pretty website, but it is up to date. It's based on Department of Labor information. So you can find things like salary and job outlook. And the reason this can be helpful is you may not know what a job involves. It could have a lot of different characteristics that you don't realize are a part of it. That might also be a way of bridging together some of your different interests. So I think the big thing is your major doesn't define everything that you'll do. It's a big part of it, of course, and you want to, of course, pursue something that's interesting to you, that you can do well in, but it doesn't end there. You know, it could take you in a lot of different directions. Okay, and another neat thing about ONET is if you go to advanced search, you can click on interest and you can plug in the themes that you thought represented you the most and see what kinds of career titles come up for that. So for example, here's investigative, social, and realistic, and you can see the different themes that align with that. And you can look it up by level of education. That's the job zone 5 would be a master's or above. So some nice things you can do on ONET to explore career titles as well. All right, I also want to talk to you about Handshake and how you can use that as an exploration tool. You can use Handshake for a lot of different activities. You can schedule career coaching appointments. You can search our employer database, and you can search for jobs and internships. So I want to focus on that section next, the jobs section or internships. So let's say that you have an interest in media and youth, and you want to see how might those be bridged together to see real jobs and internships that combine those two areas. And you can do a simple keyword search, and I would say leave out all the other filters, because right now you're not really thinking about geographic location, you're just thinking about interest right now. And you can see, so here's a digital media and communications internship with an organization that focuses on youth development. So, your primary skills and roles that you're using, the media, but you're using it for an organization that's meaningful to you. So that's how you could bridge together interests. It's like where you would do the work might bridge together in another interest that you have. And you can also look up employer information on Handshake and learn more about the different employers that we have in there. Okay. All right, and just a couple of final topics to discuss. What if I'm interested in everything? This gives you some ideas of what you might think about. And I mentioned this earlier, your major might be a foundation that connects you to multiple experiences. Minors are a great way if it fits in with your academic plan. And Mark will speak about interdisciplinary studies in just a minute. Of course, that's a way to bridge together multiple interests. And then concentrations within majors might be another way to look at it. Internships, part-time work, leadership positions, those can all bridge together other interest areas that you might have that may or may not align directly with your academic study. Okay, and then your bachelor's degree might look very different from your from your graduate, your master's, or your doctorate. I know that mine is very different. I have a business undergrad and a student affairs master's, and I've found a way to kind of bridge together two areas that I like very much. And then what you do, it can ebb and flow. Sometimes I'm a career coach, sometimes I teach. I've led groups, I've done human resource work. So everybody, if you talk to people's stories, they're probably very different, depending on who they are and what their academic path looked like. Okay, and then some other samples of how you might bridge together areas. And you might take two seemingly very different academic areas, but a lot of times they can really work well together. So psychology in the arts, business in the environment, interdisciplinary studies, there's a couple of examples there. And so you can see how you might take a major and then a minor, or a major and involvement in a club or an organization, and bridge together some different areas. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mark Nunes, and he's going to talk about interdisciplinary studies for a few minutes.
Jill, and hi Caroline, how are you? So before I go too far in my general shtick, since we've got an audience of one, it would kind of help me to know a little bit about where you're at. What year are you? Do you have a major? Are you undecided? Are you unhappy in your major? Tell me a little bit about yourself, Caroline.
Well, I'm a freshman, so I'm undecided right now, but I am really interested in like space sciences, and
Cool.
so just like trying to find some things that would help me like develop my sense of like what my major should be.
Great. Awesome. That's really great. And you may get a duplicate email in the next week or two if you're still showing as undecided. We're going to be sending out an email blast to all the folks who came in as first-year students undecided, that will basically say still deciding, and give them a little bit more information about IDS. So let me go ahead and give you my general overview. I am the chair for the Department of Interdisciplinary Studies. We have 3 degree programs. The IDS degree that I'll talk about. We are also home to Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies and Global Studies. And then we're also home to the Watauga Residential College, which is an alternative interdisciplinary general education program. Our IDS degrees are, as the slide says, truly unique on campus. They're the only opportunities that students have to truly DIY their major. And we offer both a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science degree. And typically it's a really good fit for what I like to think of as sort of 3 categories of students. We have some students who come to App as first-year students, and they're interested in new and emerging fields of study, or degrees that are so rare they're offered at very few universities around the country. So for example, we have a minor in animal studies, but it's going to be years before that's an approved major. But right now students are majoring in animal studies through the IDS degree program. The same is true with food studies, leadership and community development. And then we also have, students who are doing things in like ecotherapy or ethnobotany that are degree programs out there, but they're few and far between at universities. Then we also get some students that come to App and they're thrilled to be up here in the high country, go Mountaineers, whatever the reason is, App is the school for them. And then they discover the degree that they want is not one that we actually offer. So now they're gonna have to scramble to find a new major, or horrors, consider changing universities, which no one wants them to do, or they can try to recreate that degree program as long as we have the courses offered on campus using the IDS degree. The third category is the group that I was sort of targeting with this talk, which is the students I like to call my undecided in a healthy way students. It's not that they don't care about what they're majoring in. It's just like Michelle was saying in that earlier slide, they like everything, or they like lots of things, and it's really hard for them to figure out how to narrow down those interests. And so what the IDS degree can allow for is students to figure out where their interests intersect, and then working with faculty and required courses to build a rigorous and focused program of study around those intersecting interests. Caroline, it sounds like you may be in that category of students that's interested in a degree program that may well exist at other universities, just not here at App State. For example, we have had students use the IDS degree to create neuroscience degrees and then go off to med school. There are neuroscience degree programs out there, but it is an interdisciplinary field. It combines psychology with biology, anatomy, and physiology. But you can do that through the IDS degree. So it can be a really, really supple kind of degree program that can meet the needs of lots of different students and help them to really get on a track that's going to help them get where they're going. We'd like to make sure that students understand a few things that the DIY major is not. It's not a degree in random, so you do actually have to have things that come together and cohere into a particular interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary degree program. And we do that through what we call a statement of intent. You really need to sort of write a rationale for why you're doing what you're doing. It's also not a degree light. So in other words, we can't use the degree as an end run around a couple of courses that you don't want to take. Occasionally I'll have a student come to me and say, I want to combine biology and chemistry. And I'll say, we've got that degree, it's called biochemistry. And they'll admit that they don't want to do the calculus or something. So we can't do an end run around an existing degree. And finally, it has to be viable. We have to make sure that we actually offer the courses that will allow you to claim this is what my self-designed degree is in. So I can help you do neuroscience, for example, but I can't help you do, to use space sciences for a while, I can't say that you're self-designing a degree in aeronautical engineering because that means something very specific, and we just don't offer engineering courses at App State. We offer technology courses and plenty of science classes, but you can't self-design a degree in aeronautical engineering because we just can't support that. So that's what we do in the IDS degrees, and it sounds like for you, Caroline, if this was the path for you, that the Bachelor of Science degree would be the way to go. And if you're real interested, we can set up a separate appointment and I can go into a little more depth in terms of what the degree requirements are and those sorts of things. But that's about it, Michelle, and I'm happy to take questions. I know you are as well. We outnumber you, Caroline, but don't let that be intimidating. We're here to help and answer whatever questions you might have.
Absolutely. And here is our contact information if you wanted to follow up by email.
Okay, I just took a picture of that.
Great.
As far as questions go, I couldn't really think of like any questions right now. I guess it's just like, I do kind of feel like space science is like what I've always been always thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Or like some other things like interest me, but I'm not so focused on that, I think, just because like growing up I've always been told like, oh, like, you know, like a doctor or something like that, like something like with the sciences like kind of field. And so I've always been interested in like art and things like that, but I've kind of leaned more towards like the science field because that's what I've been told to like, you know, go towards. But so like in the work personality thing, like I put a star beside like the artistic part because I do like to express like creativity in some of my things and just like thinking outside the box in a lot of ways. But then also it's like the realistic thing, like a realistic part of me, because like I do like to be very hands-on with things and I like to like try to just like solve things like puzzles basically. And so those two things kind of like sometimes go like against one another because one of them is like, you know, the artistic and then one of them is the realistic. And so just like trying to figure out which one I more am, I guess. I don't know. I guess I'd have to like figure that out.
Or they may continue to be pretty even. I can see them. I can see those areas bridging together in lots of different ways. The hands-on with the creative, for sure. And well, and even in space science, if that's what you decide to do, that makes a lot of sense to me. Especially if you're going either with a research route or, I mean, research can be very creative and very hands-on.
Yeah, I feel like if I were to do like going into the space science like area, it'd probably be more like research based instead of like heavily math based. I mean, I know there's still going to be math and calculations and stuff like that, but just like more of like the research and like finding things on your own more than like calculating when things are going to happen, I guess.
Yeah. And Caroline, one of the things that is, you know, kind of exciting about my department and my job as chair is that I get to explore alongside with students a lot of things that I don't necessarily know a lot about. And right now you're at a point in your academic career where this is the time for you to do the exploration and to figure out, well, what are the different trajectories that I can be on? And to also know, as Michelle was pointing out, you know, yes, you want your major to align with your long-term life goals, but that doesn't mean any of us have the most straight paths in getting to where we get. So what I was getting to is you may want to research a little bit the difference between, and again, we don't have engineering degrees, but in terms of career tracks, the difference between engineering and engineering technology. And so engineering tends to be, it can certainly be hands-on, but engineering tends to be a little bit more draft-oriented, math-oriented, sort of working at that level of abstraction. Whereas engineering technology, folks in that field and in those industries really tend to be even more applied in their skills. So they're about implementing, you know, not just, you know, doing the math, but then making sure the math can be applied to an actual build. So if that build side of hands-on is something that interests and intrigues you, then you may want to explore what sort of engineering technology tracks look like. And actually, we do have some of those technology type degrees here on campus, not so much in space sciences, but I think about like sustainable technology in the built environment, STBE as a department. Those students are, you know, building photovoltaic cells and putting them to use in design and creating, you know, gas-free vehicles that are solar driven and doing all sorts of really creative, but also really kind of hands-on and practical sorts of things as well.
Okay. And see, like that was also something like I was really into, like sustainability and like the environmental sciences, so things like that. And it's just, I guess, just also like when you brought that up, I kind of like I'd almost forgotten that was like one of the other options I was like thinking about a long time ago.
Oh.
But yeah, just like thinking about the environmental aspect of it, like that was always pretty interesting too. So maybe just like maybe I might be leaning more towards that after a while.
So Caroline, I'll make a deal with you. If you can remember to shoot me an email, I will respond back with an email that will put you in touch with one of our faculty who tends to work with students more in the hard sciences. Her name is Dr. Kristen Cockrell. And her particular field of research is in environmental science and public policy. So she does a lot of work on stream health. So she works with water. And has written on things like how a lot of times when towns and municipalities are doing things where they're saying it's about the environment and it's about stream health, it really isn't, because they really don't understand the environmental science behind what makes for a healthy stream. And there may be other reasons they're doing it, like keeping human infrastructure from falling apart or whatever. But she really, really has a good handle on interdisciplinary approaches to sciences and the importance of having that strong science foundation if those are the careers that you're going into. And she might be a nice person for you to make an appointment with and either Zoom or phone call or whatever, and just kind of talk through your ideas. And again, like me, she's going to be more invested in helping you find the right path and not necessarily getting you to major in our department, because that's kind of how we do things in our department. We realize that a good number of the students that come to us do so because they're seeking and wandering. And if we can help them get a little further down the right path, that's going to be what's most important for us.
Okay. All right.
You got to email me first. That's your part of the bargain, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Caroline. It's good to see you again. And thank you, Mark, for information on interdisciplinary studies. And just know that you can reach out to either one of us if you have follow-up questions about anything that we covered during the presentation. So thanks so much.
Sounds good. Nice meeting you, Caroline and Michelle.